Comic Timing is member supported by listeners like you over at patreon.com/comic timing. We thank you very much for your continuous support of the show. For as little as $1 a month, you get episodes like this early, as we release this early to patrons and then release it on the feed a couple of days after that. Plus, you get some behind-the-scenes stuff occasionally, like articles and other behind-the-scenes audio and video. We thank you very much for your continued support over at patreon.com/comic timing. One-time donations are also available at paypal.me/IAM sci-fi. Hey there, folks. My name's Ian Levinstein, and welcome to a Comic Timing Extra Point. Been quite a while since we put out one of these, and I've got Kris as my cohort for this. Kris Nonis, what's going on, Kris?
Not much. Just very, very tired on this fine Saturday on which we were recording this.
Yes, indeed. Yep. This is the second day in a row that I've seen your face in one form or another. As yesterday we hung out at the Woodlawn Cemetery, and then had some fine Irish food afterwards in the Woodlawn Heights neighborhood of the Bronx. Third day in a row. Crap. Oh my God. Yeah, we recorded the day before that. Oh my God. Wow. Time is irrelevant to me anymore. I have no idea what days things are happening. But yeah, this is a nice 3 day in a row trend then. So nicely done on our part.
Yeah, then tomorrow you can just go hang out with somebody else.
Which I'm going to. I'm going to hang out with our friend David and go see a Yankee game, and hopefully they will kick butt on the Orioles nearly as well as they did today as we record this, as they won 9-4 today, thanks to Cody Bellinger going 4 for 4. And this has been your sports update, which is irrelevant the day after this is released, but whatever. This episode, we're going to talk about two quick things of note. Kris went to a comics festival in Brooklyn, so we're going to discuss that. And we're also going to discuss Free Comic Book Day, / whatever else you want to call it, as there were like 4 different names for it this year. Free Comic Book Day. There's also what's the non-denominational?
I've seen Comics Giveaway Day.
Yes, Comics Giveaway Day would be the other one that basically Penguin Random House adopted, as they do not have the rights to Free Comic Book Day, so they decided to just not pay for the rights and just get us in the whole thing.
Yeah, we'll go into that in this. Yeah, we'll go into that in a second. I'm just gonna go grab some stuff that I bought.
But of course,
you can. Yeah.
Yep. And while Kris does that, I will remind you folks on audio and video here that this month of May is our anniversary month. And we are turning 20. I believe the actual anniversary is only a day or two from when we record this. But the entire month of May is going to be devoted to us celebrating the show. The next episode that's going to come out after this, for those of you who may not have listened to the last one yet and heard, will be our review corner of Astro City Volume 1, the first 6 issues of that. So if you have not read that, you might want to go ahead and find that at your local library or at your local comic shop or Amazon or what have you, and read the first 6 issues of Astro City so you can listen along with us and enjoy the upcoming review corner. And then from there, there'll be a crossover between Raging Bullets and Comic Timing to review one of the comics that I'll be slightly talking about today, not the actual reading of it, but the purchasing of it, the Spider-Man, Superman crossovers that one-shots came out from DC and Marvel over the last month or so. Plus, we'll have a Zoom recording upcoming and a whole bunch of other stuff. So stay tuned for that as we celebrate 20 years of the show. All right, and Kris has settled back down in her chair, so we can go ahead and discuss first the first thing in the timeline, which we meant to get to last full episode, but we didn't actually get to, and that would be the expo you went to in Brooklyn a couple weeks ago.
I feel weird using the word expo. I hate the word expo. I mean, it is short for exposition. You know what? I hear exposition, and then I start thinking of the 19th century.
Mm-hmm.
Like the Chicago Exposition, and of course the world's exposition. I mean, they're the same thing, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But But yeah, we were going to talk about this in an earlier episode, but we were jam-packed full of content already.
Hmm.
So regular listeners of the show might remember I've been hammering people about this for months, and I did write about it on the Patreon blog,
Yep.
is that I went to the Brooklyn Independent Comics Showcase,
Hmm.
which, let's be honest, not a great name.
Yeah.
I mean, I mean, it would be nice if people just started calling it maybe Bix. So
That's not
Bix.
bad. That's not bad.
Yeah, but nobody's doing that yet because I don't think it's reached that stature, considering the fact that for starters, I was the only one from our general comics knowing, liking group that went.
Hmm.
Well, Jamal went.
Yes, correct.
He went on Sunday, I went on Saturday, so we did not cross paths. I did shame you. I know you were hanging out with Gold Team
Yep.
and and assorted people in
Hmm.
Jersey. Good for you.
Indeed. Yep.
Yeah. But yeah, this has been going on for the past few years. Like I said, I wrote about it. I went last year and I wrote about it. And it's organized by the man who also owns St. Mark's Comics, which kind of casts a pallor over it for me. The first few years, I think it's like the first 2 years, it was outside. And then I believe it was last year was the first time they actually got to be inside, which,
Hmm.
makes a big difference because,
Of
the whole
course.
thing of weather
Yeah.
exists. And when you are selling goods that are mostly paper,
Hmm.
it's your being outside is your enemy.
Not to
Uh,
mention that the weather's been so over the place, all over the place here in New York. Like there was no guarantee it was going to be warm nor inviting. So yeah.
yeah, was it raining last night? Or am I
Uh,
just
it did rain. Yeah, probably about like 1 a.m., 2 a.m. here. Today's it was actually quite nice, but it's been a little overcast. But yeah, the warmth in particular has been a freaking roller coaster here in New York.
yeah.
The past couple weeks.
I know it was raining last night because I remember getting home and being all like, why is my backpack wet? And then I had realized I completely forgot that it
Yeah.
had rained at some point. But yeah, so Brooklyn Independent Comics Showcase. It's a free show held in Brooklyn
Hmm.
at the Industry City. For those who are not from New York, Industry City used to be basically all of our waterfront shipping.
Yeah.
This basically like, because stretching from like the Brooklyn Army Terminal, which literally did belong to the Army,
Hmm.
Bush Terminal, just all these giant buildings and warehouses. And we don't ship stuff out very often, especially we don't ship out like military goods or anything. So these buildings were just kind of left to rot. People have used them over the years, but they were kind of neglected. And in the past, 10 to 15 years, they've made a real effort to try to revitalize them, fix up the buildings and make them habitable, not just for like some artist who wants to, build a giant ass sculpture or whatever thing, but just, so you can actually have things like stores and restaurants and just
Hmm.
have a real community building in there. Whether or not this is working is up for debate, because I've heard people talk about how the Industry City management doesn't really care about its tenants or
Yeah.
its vendors or anything like that. That's a whole other podcast, to be honest. But so for the past few years, they've had the Brooklyn Independent Comic Showcase organized, let's say organized by St. Mark's. St. Mark's moved there after it was, they had to leave the East Village. You can listen to that episode of Comic Timing in which
Yeah.
me,
Yes,
Ian, and
indeed.
Raph basically just complain about how much we hate that store.
I had it ready for reference. That's episode 195 of Comic Timing from February 25th, 2019, which was titled Comic Shops, St. Mark's, and Show Notes, because we kept bringing up show notes over and over again in that episode.
Yeah,
But that was
well,
a good time.
you want to be able to look stuff up. Like I've listened to so many podcasts where they'll mention something and I'm like, oh shit, I got to write that down
Yeah.
or something like that. So show notes are very useful. So we should
Yep.
do more show notes, Ian.
Yes, I agree.
Uh, but yeah, so Brooklyn Independent Comic Showcase. This year they actually switched where they were located inside Industry City.
Hmm.
Last year it was two different rooms. One room was like on the second floor, and the other room I think was like on the seventh floor.
Hmm.
I remember this well because I started to climb up the stairs, not realizing that it was going to be all the way up on like seven. So, my heart was not happy. I was panting and just dying by the time I got
Sure.
up there.
Of course. Yeah.
I took the elevator down, even though it's easier to go down, but it was nice enough, though having it split between the two rooms and then you kind of have to go track them down was not great. This year, completely rethought, different room. It was in an area called the Box Factory, which I'm assuming what used to be a box factory.
I
I've
would think so.
attended, yeah, I've attended events in this space before. It's a lot bigger, a lot more. I have pictures. I can probably bring them up if you give me some control here.
Yep, I will do that.
Yeah, give me a second to look for those, but I'll just keep talking.
Yep.
So yeah, I've been in the space, the Box Factory before. A friend of ours who used to work at Brooklyn Brewery invited me to the Brewers Week or whatever it's called. Basically, once a year they have a big celebration of all the like independent brewers in New York City. And it takes place over a week, and there's usually a kickoff party. So I got to go to that kickoff party, and it was inside the Box Factory.
Nice.
Bix, as I will call it for the rest of this podcast, used the exact same space. It was one large center room, and then there were two smaller rooms on the complete opposite ends. Yeah, again, let me. I apologize to anyone listening to this. I will attempt to describe any photos that I, bring up on the thing.
Of course, we tend to do a decent job of that.
Yeah, we don't want to be one of those podcasts that forgets that it's a podcast, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. But yeah, look, it was way expanded. Okay, I found my photos, so now I can start just pulling them. But it'll help me talk to you guys too as well. Yeah, so it's like this big cavernous room. I would say there were moments where it kind of reminds me of the old days of Mocha. But the thing is, Mocha being in the Puck building had like lower ceilings and it was hot.
Yeah.
It was in June. There was no air conditioning. You're lucky if they could get a fan in there. This was just the complete opposite of that. It was just like this nice, big, airy room. And I say airy because it was just crazy. I'm just going to scroll through my photos. But there was at least one end of the room, hold on, that was actually just open to the outside.
Oh, really?
Yeah, let me see if I got that. Yeah, this. Look at this. Look at this.
Interesting. Huh. Okay.
So the photo I'm showing is a set of doors that open onto, you can actually see what is basically the parking lot behind Industry City. Like there's no screen, there's no anything. It's just a bunch of there's these doors, there's some windows. And I was joking to you, the rest of the comic timing people, that there's so much sun in there. This is the most sun that the people who exhibited at the show has probably ever seen in months.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah. Like the building's not in the best shape. It's a little ramshackle. I'm showing a picture of like the windows, which are kind of stained, and there's like what looks like probably chipping paint because they probably painted over some of the windows.
Yeah, they're probably the same windows that were there when it was a box factory.
Yeah. So like the venue, it was on the ground floor. That was the biggest difference. And and you could just like walk right in from the street. This is a free show. You don't have to get a ticket. You don't have to RSVP. You can just walk right in, which is what I did. And it was nice, like to just walk in. I just started running the rooms the way we tend to do it. We're the type of people that will pick an aisle, start at the end and go all the way up and then come down and go up and come down. So I did that for the show. It didn't take too long. I was probably there maybe 90 minutes at most.
Okay.
But yeah, like it was just a lovely space. I like, again, it's an improved layout, lots of space. Though I did notice that some of the aisles seem to be not the same size.
Interesting.
Which is just so weird to me. I don't know why that ever happens.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I think they do that in particular for for maneuvering sake, like to have one sort of central aisle that's a little bit bigger to go down. Hopefully that was the aisle that was bigger than all the others, is the one that was the most central. Well, then great. It makes no sense.
The middle aisle in one of the rooms was actually the smallest. It was just the most baffling thing.
Oh, boy.
But yeah, so like there's 3 rooms. One was more like, I don't think people realized there were extra rooms. The yellow and the blue room, I think they were.
Yeah.
The center room was crowded. The 2 on the end were just kind of sparse, which made me feel bad for anybody who's in those rooms. But I think those were being treated as like overflow rooms. There was still there were empty tables in there. which made me hope that like if nobody was turned away, there was no reason to turn people away when there's just so much space.
Right. Yeah.
Like I'm showing a picture, there's two empty tables. Like one of them has the number 441 on them. I'm assuming the other one is 442. Just just like plenty of space to expand this show. I
Yeah.
know people have to pay to exhibit, which is how they're really making money. It's also being, I believe, subsidized by Industry City because Industry City is trying to position itself as like this cultural hub.
Hmm.
And they have events all the time. They'll have like outdoor concerts or, like I think they might do a food festival. That maybe they do something like the Japan Fest thing, at least one
Hmm.
of the dates of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, they'll do little festivals and everything. Because they're still trying to sell it. There's still a lot of empty space in these buildings, even as it starts to fill up more. If you are not in New York already, you just happen to be visiting Brooklyn, I do recommend checking out Industry City. They have Japan Village, which has a Sunrise Mart, a
Hmm.
Japanese food court, a Daiso book off, and the Namkai Bando cross store, so you can buy all your Gundams. You know, I took my cousin's kid to book off, and then the Namco Bandai store, and he like dropped like $300.
Wow.
Yeah, well, he was like, "Oh, this would cost me like $300 online, but it's only $100 here." And I'm
Oh boy.
cool. That's an expensive hobby.
Well, to bring it back to the actual show, you mentioned
Yeah.
those extra those empty tables. There's a Comics Beat article that I brought up on the screen earlier about Bix here. They shortened it to Bix as well, so we're just going to go with Bix.
Bricks.
And Fabrice Sapolsky, who wrote part of the article, mentions that he was unable to get a artist alley table for Bix, and that does make me wonder whether or not there were no shows, or if perhaps they had last minute cancellations or something like that, and were not able to scramble to get people to fill those tables in one way or another. But if there were only two or three empties, I call that a win overall for a convention.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is a whole other topic is like why you see empty tables. Like this
Yeah.
somebody had bought the table and then had to bail at the last minute, which really
Hmm.
sucks. I'm
Yeah.
not, denying that. It's always very strange that they don't have like standby slots.
I know. Yeah.
It'd be like if you can't show up, we can refund you, part of your purchase thing. I know that's a pain in the ass paperwork wise, but I
Hmm.
feel like it's better for your vendors, your attendees, just to be able to fill those spots.
Hmm.
Nothing makes your show look more, I don't know, you want to say ramshackle, unloved, is like seeing an empty table.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean,
Absolutely.
again, people have emergencies in their lives, but not every artist has those emergencies. Sometimes people just don't
Hmm.
show up.
Yeah.
And like I said, you can look at some of these photos that I took and you'd be like, there is room for more tables in there.
Oh, definitely.
I
Yeah.
do wonder if there's like a fire code thing.
I mean,
Again,
it wouldn't surprise me.
yeah, we're not experts in any of this. So I think there's room to grow. One of the ways they definitely could grow is they could have more programming because
Yes.
they don't have a lot of programming. I think like they have like some workshops like making zines and everything,
Hmm.
but they don't have like panel talks. Even Mocha has panel talks.
Yeah.
So it would be nice if you could go do something.
Sure.
And mind you, the events are usually over by the time I even go to this show. Last year, I think I showed up. It was like 3 o'clock, and
Hmm.
everything was over by like 1. And
Okay.
I think it was the same this year, though I did talk to one of the tables was the people who run like the zine making workshop, and they're going to do like a regular thing in New York City anyway. So I
Hmm.
might go do that, rather than, bust my ass to get over to Industry City. I had another event that day that I was attending, so I did that first, and then I went
Yeah.
to Brooklyn, which is the same thing that happened to me last year. It's like the curse of spring is that everything is at the same time,
Well,
right?
there was even something at the same time, that's sort of parallel, that was happening at the same day as this event, and that was BookCon. I did not get tickets to BookCon because it sold out in 8 seconds, but it was happening the exact same weekend as this particular show. So I mean, yeah, sure, it's not 100% crossover because obviously books versus comics, they're cousins, but they're not the same thing. But I'm sure there probably were at least a couple of comic book publishers that were at BookCon that committed to it that wouldn't have then decided that they were going to show up to Brooklyn Independent, comic showcase.
Well, I think you need to emphasize the independent part of that.
Of course, yeah,
Now, granted, in the mainstream comics industry here in the United States, you say independent, you basically just mean anybody who's not Marvel or DC. Or
absolutely, yeah.
maybe not Image, depending on how you feel about that. That's like Image now occupies this really weird space.
Image
But
is the Sam Adams of comic companies. You know how like Sam Adams is technically a microbrew, but they've literally had to change the definition of a microbrew so that it doesn't become a macro. And that's kind of where Image is. It's like Image is the third publisher, definitely.
yeah, it's been like that for ages. I mean, almost
Yeah.
since the beginning, I feel like. It's
Hmm.
just, it's very weird because, again, independent, we tend to say Marvel and DC.
Yeah.
And, and it's also weird because you'd be like, well, what about Dark Horse? And I'm like, I, yeah, I like my head will blow up
I know.
because I understand that Dark Horse is a big company or was a big company. We know
Hmm.
things are weird with them right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
But yeah, like that again, whole other episode we could talk about this stuff.
Most definitely.
But
Yeah.
anyway, this is basically an artist alley.
Hmm.
Brooklyn, Independent Comic Showcase is essentially an artist alley, which is also what Mocha Fest was doing for years and years and years. I don't go to Mocha anymore because it's just expensive.
Yeah.
I also always kind of felt like Mocha had a sense of not being for me because a lot of like zinesters and everything have this, I mean, it's just overly hipstery.
Hmm.
Like I would buy these things that look cool and I'd be like, yeah, this isn't a very good comic, to be honest. Like there's like you can have joy in your art, but like sometimes people just make art that's just kind of like I'll say it's pretentious.
Sure. Yeah.
If you understand what I'm trying to say here, it's
No,
like
no, no, absolutely.
where you
Yeah.
say, "Oh, you made this thing because you wanted to make a statement, but did you have any fun when you were doing it?"
I call it almost like the barista model. There's coffee, and then there's coffee made by a barista. Somebody who's doing their best to like make it absolutely perfect from the most perfect beans that you can possibly get. They might put a little flour on the coffee, or you can just brew your own coffee. And there's the difference right there. I enjoy them both. They have their own place, but there's a difference between the artisanal and just the standard. That's
Yeah,
that.
I mean,
Yeah.
there's always been that kind of split. Again, we talk about mainstream versus indie,
Hmm.
small press and all that.
Yeah.
But yeah, my main thing is like Mocha just got way too expensive.
Hmm.
Like I had no problem still going because I would still find things that would interest me, things that I found delightful.
Yeah.
A lot of the people who graduate from like comics programs end up exhibiting there.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't see as much of that here at this showcase. I do one. I mean, there's probably people who exhibit both. I can almost guarantee that.
Oh, I
But
100% guarantee that. Yeah.
yeah, it's interesting because I did speak to a few creators, none of which exhibited at Mocha. There was one of them who's even shocked to find out that you have to pay to get into Mocha.
Oh my God.
She's
Wow.
like, she's like, but they charge for the tables. I thought that's where they were making their money.
Yeah. No.
Yeah. So she,
I mean, the only reason why we even attended Mocha, I mean, full disclosure, the last time I attended Mocha, I attended as press because I could. And I don't think I would have attended otherwise because, like you said, they've made the entrance fee so high that on top of the prices of the actual goods, which I understand they have to charge a large amount for because there's small print runs and stuff like that, you could easily wind up sinking, over $100 before you know it on just a couple of small goods because you already paid for your entrance fee with that.
yeah, because Mocha, I remember when the first year I went, it was $6.
Hmm.
I also get to be kind of an a-hole and admit that I went to the thing that existed before Mocha.
Oh, wow.
I think I've told you the story that basically, so you have Small Press Expo
Hmm.
in Maryland that's been happening for decades.
Yeah.
It's a fine show. I've been to it. It is it is a little bit pretentious, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
In 2001, it would have been the same week as 9/11.
Oh, wow.
So they had to cancel the show, and
Understood.
a bunch of people who were in New York who were planning to travel down there were suddenly. I think it wasn't that weekend, but I think the weekend after. But the
Hmm.
show was canceled for reasons. And all these people they had, people build their whole business plans around these shows sometimes.
Oh,
People had all
sure.
these comics they wanted to sell. They're like, what do I do with them? And someone organized like, hey, there's this loft. We can all set up in the loft and you can sell whatever comics you were planning to bring to the SPX.
Hmm.
They called it SPX Styles.
Oh, wow.
I forgot where I heard about it. It might have been in the comic book emag, which is the newsletter I used to write for. It also could have just been something like easily comic book resources or
Yeah.
Newsarama.
Hmm.
Just some site mentioned it, and I was like, "Oh, that's cool. I'll check it out." It was free. I popped in. I did buy like one or two things, including a comic by K. Thor Jensen, who is actually somewhat notable now. I thought that was
Hmm.
kind of funny that like I reviewed it and then I got a like thanks for the ambivalent review. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, it was a whole thing. It was pretty funny. But yeah, like we don't do mocha anymore. I don't want to pay to get in and then be like, "Oh, now I got to buy stuff and people are going to guilt me and I'm going to end up buying stuff I'm not even going to read."
Hmm.
So, Brooklyn Independent Comics Showcase, BIX, is actually a really nice replacement for me because I don't have to pay to get in. So there's less pressure for me to make it feel like it's worth it.
Yeah.
Like I can just look at the table and go, "Oh, that's nice," and then choose not to buy it.
Oh, yeah.
I did buy some stuff. I didn't set necessarily a strict budget, but I did kind of be like, I wonder if I could get out of here without actually ever pulling out my credit card. So I think I had exactly like $5 in my wallet. No, $4 in my wallet.
Hmm.
And I bought exactly $4 worth of comics.
Nice. There you
Yeah, I
go.
bought, and the thing is, one of the reasons I like going to these kind of shows, these little shows with people just making what they do in their spare time, not necessarily trying to make a living, though there were a lot of creators who are trying to make a living.
Hmm.
But I mean, I've espoused on the show before about how much one sheet comics,
Yeah.
being when you take a sheet of what is it, A5 paper,
Hmm.
8.5 by 11 size paper, and you fold it a certain way, and it becomes a little booklet. And I see people sell these mocha. They would sell them for like $5, which is ridiculous to me. It's
Yeah.
literally just one piece of paper. I know you're
I
trying
know.
to make your
Yeah.
table fee, but for me, it's like that is not a good value proposition for most of your customers. But here I saw people selling them for $1 or $2. So I actually did buy this one called the Humble Woodcock.
Hmm. You want to stop sharing a minute just so we can see that a little better?
Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah, I can stop. How do I? Yeah, actually, let's just go back to.
There you
Yeah, I'm good at internet, clearly. But I
go.
bought this little zine called The Humble Woodcock because recently, or apparently it happens every year, but the woodcocks nest in Bryant Park in Manhattan,
Oh,
and
cool.
people have noticed them, I guess, for the first time.
Hmm.
And when they're in like their little nesting, mating season, whatever, they do this cute little dance, and everybody wanted to go watch the woodcocks do their cute little dance.
All right.
So somebody made a little zine about the woodcock doing its little dance and just hanging out in Bryant Park. Yeah.
Nice.
So that was like $1. I was like, of course I'm not gonna do that. And then there
Yeah.
was a guy, I think he had like $2 comics, but when I was like, look, I only got $3. He's like, okay, you can take them both. So I got two other birding comics.
Hmm.
Birding is totally for 100% normal people.
Yes, I agree with that statement.
And everything I know about conditional love, I learned from birding.
All right. Okay. I sense a trend here. I definitely sense a trend.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things about going to these shows is you kind of have to set goals for yourself. Like if you just say, I'm going to walk around and maybe I'll see something, more than likely you are going to either not buy anything or you're going to end up buying shit you don't want.
Oh yeah.
But if you say, hey, I'm going to go look for wrestling comics,
Hmm.
one, you will probably find wrestling comics because
Most definitely.
wrestling fans are huge nerds, comic nerds, it all crosses over.
Correct.
But yeah, like you just go in, you'll find something, and the thing is, like, you do this enough times, you actually start to build like a collection, and it's kind of fun to like show it off. Like you feel better about it. I think in general, it doesn't feel directionless. It doesn't feel like you're just picking up a bunch of junk.
Hmm.
So like I will go in and be like, okay, I think I don't know if I actually decided that on the spot or beforehand. I think it was because I had just walked through Greenwood Cemetery, so I was kind of in an outdoorsy mood. So I
Yeah.
was like, birds, let's buy some bird comics. But sometimes I'd be like, let's buy recipe comics or let's buy travel comics. So, like I try to go in with like that kind of plan. And I do recommend that to anybody. Just like in any type of artist alley situation, like
Hmm.
have a goal, have something you're looking for. You'll enjoy the experience a lot more than just kind of looking and hoping and trying to squeeze past crowds. Like it can be really stressful,
Yeah.
honestly. It also helps with the whole if you accidentally make eye contact with an artist and you have no interest in their work, you'd be
Yeah.
like, no, I'm actually looking for this, like
We've all had that experience before. The sad puppy dog eyes that you do your best to back away from without spending $5 that you don't want to spend. Yes.
yeah, like I
Yeah.
think we're all hurting now. I know that it's tough to be in comics, but again, we're all kind of suffering financially, and we always kind of have been. I have my philosophy of like just like I do want to support you as an artist, you do have to respect my wallet in a way.
Of
You have to
course.
respect my time, my attention, and the fact that I also work for my money.
Yeah.
So I have to make the best decisions for me in terms of how I spend my money.
The decision was made not to go to Mocha. I want to point out Mocha was 3 weeks before this, so like there really wasn't that much of a gap in between those shows. So I would think most people would be choosing one or the other as opposed to going to both in the New York City area because there's not that much of a gap, and you may very well get overlap between at least some people that exhibited at both. But you're going to get independent comics no matter which way you slice it.
Yeah, well, people do have to be very picky with how many shows they exhibit at, not just because
Yeah.
it costs money to exhibit, but also it's like your time and energy.
Hmm.
We've talked on the show about Anime NYC moving to August,
Yep.
which is great for their attendance. And I've said it's great for like because high school and college students are more likely to go, and just like longer days. You don't have to bring a heavy coat to go, though you may be sweaty and gross, and God help everybody else's nose in that case.
Sure. Yeah.
But we've talked to we know exhibitors, we know people work in the industry, and the thing is, the summer is so stacked, it's exhausting.
Absolutely.
It's also bad for your budget because
Yeah.
the way company budgets are, they're done by seasons
Hmm.
rather than like a whole holistic all year annual thing usually.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like having it, I think it was Ed Chavez who said like having it in November basically does place it in like a different budget category for us.
Well, funny enough. I was going to bring it up at some point, so I may as well bring it up now. That there is going to be another show in Brooklyn that was announced not too long ago, and it's called Brooklyn Expo of Comics (BEC), which will be taking place in November. It'll be Saturday, November 14th, and Sunday, November 15th, in Williamsburg at Mount Carmel Church.
Yeah, so
In on Havermeyer Street in Williamsburg, Brooklyn.
yeah, I'm sure it'll be perfectly fine, but that is what I will call a basement show.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, the
No.
minute you see the word church, you know
Mhm.
exactly what type of show it is. And again, it's
100%.
perfectly fine. I've gone to things in churches. Big Apple Con used to be in a church.
Yep.
I've also been to like flea markets and churches, and I bought some really good stuff. But
Mhm. Yeah.
yeah, the minute you said like the BEC, I'm just gonna roll my eyes so hard at that.
Named after NYC's favorite bodega breakfast sandwich. It even says that on the description for the site. So yeah.
I think I've eaten a BEC like once in my life.
Bacon, egg, and cheese? I have a bacon, egg, and cheese at least once a week.
I'm a bagel person.
Nah, fair enough.
You
Fair
just get a
enough.
bagel with butter, bagel with cream cheese. Like I just like with the chopped cheese. The chopped cheese, I'm sorry. Like they
Yeah.
try to say, "Oh, you're not a real New Yorker if you haven't had chopped cheese or you don't know what a chopped cheese is." And I'm like, "No, I feel like I know the history of the chopped cheese, but
Mhm.
I feel like all the hype around it is totally a transplant thing."
Well, unless you grew up in the Bronx or the Upper West Side,
Yeah,
like
if you
those.
grow in
Yeah.
the specific neighborhoods that
Yes.
served it,
Yeah.
but to make it into like, oh, this is a New York thing, and I'm like, no, that's like very specific delis that
One
had
hundred
it.
percent. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's just crazy how it blew up and turned into like a litmus test. And I'm like, that's dumb. That's just dumb. Like, stop it.
Yeah.
Enjoy your sandwiches. Don't turn it into a test over like what a real New Yorker is. Same with the BC.
100%.
I'm like, if you like a bacon, egg, and cheese, you eat. Yeah, again, I've eaten them, but I
Hmm.
usually prefer other things. And also, I'm not a breakfast person a lot of the time
Yes.
anyway.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to comics.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, so people are operating on these like limited budgets. Too many shows might be bad for them, but I think New York City, we've got what, 7 million people, 8 million people?
Yeah.
And I think we probably should have been having more shows than we've been having historically.
Yes. Correct.
Because like we have just more people. This isn't me being like like, oh, in New York, we're so important. It's just like, no, there's just a lot of effing people here.
Absolutely.
And not everybody will get into these shows. So more shows I think is probably better for the comic community. I don't know whether or not it's cannibalizing sales, but I will say for the creators, it's probably better to at least have more options. I am wondering, what the fees are to exhibit at some of these things. Like I said, I'm pretty sure, that Bix is probably cheaper because they're not paying the same amount that, say Mocha would pay.
Oh, sure. Absolutely. Yeah. Because and it's funny too, because like looking at the overall layout, in some ways, it kind of reminds me of a cross between two of the previous Mocha spaces. It reminds me a little bit of the first location, which was what, the Puck building.
It was the Puck building.
Yeah, the Puck building, and then the Armory was the second location of Mocha, and this has the industrial feel of the Armory, but the windows and reminder that there's an outside world, like the Puck building had. So
Yeah.
a little bit of a combo of both flavors.
Yeah, well, it's funny because like both of those buildings had their downsides.
Oh,
Like
absolutely.
because the Puck building mostly, like I said, is not air conditioned because
Yeah.
it's over 100 years old.
Yep.
It's where Puck magazine used to publish out of. So it was always just boiling because it's in June.
Yeah.
The main issue I had with the Armory is mostly because it like smelled like rotting wood.
Oh my God. Yeah.
And I remember once, I think I was talking to somebody at a table and a piece of wood just fell right next to us. Not like a big
Oy.
piece of wood, like a splinter, like a large splinter just kind of fell. And we're just like, the fuck?
Yeah. Seriously, that should not be happening in your active building.
Yeah, it's just like, oh, it was weird. It's an old, like, a lot of these buildings need more love. We don't really
Mhm.
fund it adequately,
Yeah.
and that's why they do all these shows and stuff I mean, there's like two armory buildings in Manhattan or
Hmm.
main ones, there's the Park Avenue, which I think that was the one that's more north, right?
Yes. Yep. Correct.
Yeah, this is the one that's closer to like 23rd Street.
Hmm.
But yeah, like I mean, again, it's a perfectly nice space. They're really trying to build out Industry City and make it into a welcoming space. And I think this is part of it. And I really hope it continues on. Like I said, I spoke to a few artists, just, vibing them. One of them was this Japanese lady who had a comic about Puerto Rico.
Very cool.
She went there in February with,
Hmm.
I guess, her partner, and they were visiting two friends of theirs. And then, like, after they got back, one of those friends died.
Oh man.
So it kind of inspired her to make this comic. And it's not like a mini comic. It was perfect bound. It was like $20 and like at least like, a quarter inch or more. I'm not going to say it's the longest comic. It's not, some big tome like, a Craig Thompson thing.
No, of course
But
not.
I'm like still kind of impressed that she got it out. I didn't buy it because like again, I set my budget very thing and I told her, said, look, yeah, right now I'm like I'm keeping my budget. She was perfectly fine with that. We talked a bit. She was
Hmm.
very lovely. The other yeah, I can pull up her info. Again, we can put it in the show notes.
There you go. Yeah.
The other person I spoke to, whose first name was Alexandra, if I remember the top of my head, she did a lot of fan art of things like late night talk show host
Hmm.
and a lot of Broadway art.
That's cool.
So I ended up talking to her about, well, look, because I think we were just talking about the show in general, and FlameCon did come up. I was like, I told her, I said, you really should exhibit at FlameCon if you want to
Mhm.
exhibit it. Oh, she was asking about Anime NYC. That's what it was.
Got it.
And I said, Anime NYC is pretty good. FlameCon, you'd probably do really well. And she's like, oh, well, I don't want to take away space from a queer creator. And I had to be like, girl, You sell Broadway and furry art.
You got to fit right in. Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I said, no one's checking your gay card at the door.
Seriously.
And I've said this on this show, I will say it again, is like the thing about shows like FlameCon and BlurredCon is it's okay if people not from the groups go to them. The important part is that they remain controlled
Hmm.
by whatever group founded them. Like FlameCon,
Yeah.
that means it needs to be queer controlled.
Yeah.
BlurredCon still needs to be the Black Comic Con.
Hmm.
As long as that maintains it and that they still aim towards their core audiences, will be okay. Like I tell you guys to go to FlameCon because it is just a welcoming, lovely community. As long as gay people are still running it, it's
Hmm.
okay for the straights to come visit.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
I want you guys to experience the love.
Well, I'm glad you enjoyed your few hours at Brooklyn Independent Comic Showcase. I hope to make it there next year on one of the days, as long as I'm not otherwise obligated to be in New Jersey hanging out with Gold Team. Then I will
Yeah.
definitely make it my mission to attend next year just to see
Yeah,
what's
it
around.
would be nice. I mean, I know that you had the other thing at Chris Eberly. That's fine.
Yeah.
I mostly just was like, I'm sitting in, I went to Gun Hill Brewing afterwards, and I'm just sitting there going, why am I here by myself? This feels
Now,
wrong.
no, no, you were there with the Gun Hill dog. Okay, so that's perfectly acceptable.
Yeah, the owner
That's
owner got a new dog.
yep,
His
yep,
old dog was Zeus. I think Zeus might be dead. Now
yeah.
his new dog is Hercules.
Oh well, there you go.
Yeah.
Well, so the guys who ran this, as we said, were St. Mark's Comics, and to pivot into today, as we record this episode, and it is our main reason for being here. It's Free Comic Book Day here in the States. Most places are probably closed as we're recording this, so the day is over for that. But you went and visited your local comic shop because your local comic shop is St. Mark's.
No, no, no. I mean, there are other places I could
I know,
have
I know,
gone.
I
So
know.
let's backtrack. First off, like you said, it's sort of Free Comic Book Day, but it's also Comics Giveaway Day
Yeah.
because Free Comic Book Day is a Diamond creation, right?
Yes, and
Yeah.
the rights were sold.
Yeah.
So obviously, since Diamond does not exist anymore, the rights were sold in the auction of their stuff. Universal Distribution obtained the rights to Free Comic Book Day, which is why Penguin Random House and couple of other companies chose to do Comics Giveaway Day instead, rather than Free Comic Book Day. But it was the same damn thing, just different,
Yeah,
nomenclature.
it just kind of sucks when something that should be a community event has like a name that ends
Yeah,
up being trademarked and
I agree.
controlled by a singular entity. Like
Yeah.
Inktober is a great example of that.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Like Inktober, everybody thinks it's just like a hashtag and a prompt, but the person who created it in the first place trademarked it and actually clamps down on other artists who try to use it. Like if they make a sketchbook with
Hmm.
all of their Inktober drawings, it'd be like, you can't call it Inktober.
Yeah.
So I've seen people use different names for it. Like it's just kind of a bummer because that should be a community thing. And I feel like Free Comic Book Day should be like that. But what happened today is so, like I said earlier, how especially as the weather gets warmer, everything happens at the same time. So
Yeah.
just like how Free Comic Book Day is always the first weekend of May, the first weekend of May is also Jane's Walk.
Hmm.
So Jane's Walk is a festival of urbanism, city life, named after Jane Jacobs, the very famous urbanist, author, activist.
Hmm.
They, famously went up against Robert Moses when he tried to build a freeway through Greenwich Village,
Hmm.
and she got enough people behind her that they won. That highway was never built. That's why you can now go and hang out in the village. That why it's still there.
I gave his crypt the middle finger. It was fun.
Yeah, we incidentally we got to visit his grave yesterday, his crypt
Yeah.
yesterday. Yeah,
Yeah.
so It's very modest, I think, because if it wasn't modest, people would probably take a piss on it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
We went on a tour of Woodlawn, and the tour guide was like, I always feel bad coming here because everybody just tells me how much they hate his guts.
Well, after I posted my picture, Brandon was like, all my friends hate on Robert Moses. Like, yes, it's a sign of intelligence to hate on Robert Moses because he fucking deserves it.
I know. I think he knows. I mean, he knows who Robert Moses is. Like, people can talk about. I mean, if you do not know who Robert Moses is, we'll just go to his Wikipedia page or whatever. But the thumbnail version of it is that he was Parks Commissioner and a bunch of other things for decades. It's crazy how many simultaneous jobs he had. And as Parks Commissioner, he took it upon himself to build a bunch of parkways.
Yes.
So, and the thing is, it's the age of, it's the 50s, it's the age of driving, and that sounds fine if you're a driver, but for the people on the ground, not so great. He plowed right through a lot of poor neighborhoods, minority neighborhoods. These neighborhoods are still reeling from that consequence. They have bad health outcomes because of like asthma and stuff.
Yep.
It's hard to get anywhere because you have to cross the freeway. If you ever tried to cross the Bruckner, I hate that goddamn thing.
That is impossible. Yeah.
I live on a Robert Moses project because I live on Ocean Parkway, which is the end of the Prospect Expressway. And I've told people, I'm like, no, I'm going to give you very specific directions how to get to my house. Listen to them directly because we are not sending out a search party. And then Raph didn't listen and was lost for like 20 minutes.
He eventually found his way, and we are happy to report that Raph is safe at home. He made it home afterwards. Everything's fine. Everything's fine.
Yeah. Yeah, you love your Robert Moses photo.
Yes, I do, and it made me a happy camper.
So yeah, this weekend is also Jane's Walk. It was Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and so yesterday we went to Woodlawn Cemetery for a tour led by one of the staff of Woodlawn. Today, I actually managed to get in on another a Jane's Walk that wasn't really like a tour, like a walk. Oh, yeah, let me mention this. The thing about Jane's Walk is that anyone can lead a Jane's Walk tour.
Yes.
You or I, me, Ian, anyone listening to this, you could just be like, I'm going to do Jane's Walk. I'm going to show you where all the cool basketball hoops are in my neighborhood. And you can do that. They'll put it on the website so people can sign up and attend it. It's completely crowdsourced, which I think is appropriate to what we've been talking about, things like independent comics and everything. It's very DIY. It's kind of lovely that way, though.
Absolutely.
I have been on some bad tours, but I think the good ones have outnumbered it. Today, and like I said, it wasn't really a tour, but they had signed it up as a Jane's Walk, was to visit the municipal archives. There are two main offices and a warehouse. This is we're talking about New York City's archives, like any paper, video, audio recording, all the stuff that's ever made by the New York City government. Raph does deal with some records in his job, though I found out today he does not work for the same department that I was talking to today.
Got it.
But they did know him.
Oh, wow. Well, there you go.
Everyone knows Raph. And I said, oh, yeah, a friend of mine apparently works for you guys. And they're like, no, it's actually this. He works in this department. But I do know him.
Yes.
So Raph, you're listening to this, they say hi, and you should get in touch. Because I said, there's no way. You've definitely met Raph. And if you haven't, you should. You'll love him. Everyone loves Raph.
There is literally not one person in the entire city of New York that hasn't met Raph at this point. I feel like everybody knows him.
Yeah. But so they had a tour of the municipal archives, so I got to see all this cool archival stuff. Where is the municipal archives? Industry City.
Ha.
Well, technically it was at Bush Terminal, which is 2 blocks south. But, when I did this tour was great. I will, just for the sake of it, I will tell you, I got to see, they were showing us I looked at a shelf and there was just a bunch of rolled up, it was blueprints, and it was the blueprints for every public school.
Okay.
I really wanted them to go find my elementary school.
Oh my God.
Yeah, they had stuff they were talking about. We get a lot of people asking us about their relatives who went to jail. So they want me to get in touch with them because I said, my great grandfather was in prison and I don't even know why. Yeah, the things you find out when you start searching like MyHeritage and all those different sites.
Yeah, seriously.
But yeah, it was a fun little tour, and then the tour ends at 1:30. And I'm just like, oh, it's free comic book day. Maybe I should go do stuff. And of course, I searched, what are the nearest comic shops? And to be honest, it's just St. Mark's in that area.
Yeah.
Like even in Brooklyn, everything else, because we have some good comic shops. Like Bulletproof is a great comic shop, but that would easily be like a 40-minute ride from me from where I was.
Hmm.
There's also Anyone Comics, also kind of probably a long ride. Just
Yep.
in general, nothing was convenient. And I'm like, look, we've talked about this on the show before too, is how we try to figure out whether or not Free Comic Book Day is still for people like us.
Yeah.
I just figured it couldn't hurt to drop by St. Mark's.
Sure.
I was walking up the street after the event anyway with I discovered like three other people who went to the same high school as me.
Oh, that's funny.
So we were just talking about how much it kind of sucks now, because we're old and we can do that.
Hmm.
So I just walked up to Industry City. Like I said, it's Industry City is wonderful. Like I recommend visiting it because you have like, oh, here's a cool bookstore and here's a cool record store and here's a store that sells armor and leather. Like it's crazy. So yeah, so you want me to tell you about this?
Yes, I do.
Yes, talk. Ask Ian. Okay. So I start entering the buildings and I'm kind of like weaving my way through the various buildings. First time, you know what? They have a shuttle bus that runs to Industry City. I've never seen it before in my life. I finally got to see
Interesting.
it today.
Okay, that's cool.
This is a side note, just very funny to me. I was like, it does exist, you know. Uh, but yeah, I walk up to St. Mark's, and mind you, I have never been to the St. Mark's in Industry City. I walk by it because if you listen to that episode, we all don't like St. Mark's comics very much.
Yes, yes.
But I was like, okay, I'm gonna walk in. There's a sign being like, oh, sale, and they have two tables out. One of the tables has like dollar comics,
Hmm.
and then there's like on the other side of the table has a bunch of like action figures. And then across from that is another table that's pretty much just all sports action figures.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me pull this one up, right? Okay. We'll get out of but yeah, they have a table like these tables, the dollar comics and the action figures, most of which were like something like $5 or whatever. Not terrible.
Hmm.
Yeah, I apologize to anyone watching the video. Yeah, I did not take a lot of photos.
If you can't immediately find your photos, I have the ones you sent me on Messenger, so
Yeah.
I can share those.
No, I just found it. Hold on.
Okay, cool. There you
Yeah, so you got it?
go.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
starting lineup. Remember
Yeah.
starting lineup, Ian?
Yeah, I do. It's been a minute. It's definitely been a minute since I even thought of the starting lineup Major League Baseball action figures. I guess they existed longer than I thought, but mind you, like there's 1996 edition ones here.
Oh, wrong way.
So
Yeah.
I don't know just how old or new those are, if they're trying to be retro or if they are actually from the 90s.
So my theory is, let me see. Let me scroll. I was looking. Ian can see the photo. Ian, say what you're
Yes.
going to say first, and then I will
Uh,
describe the photo.
Well, nothing says 90s more than Wildcats action figures for $1 a piece. Uh,
$5.
$5. Oh, okay. That's too much. I'm
So
sorry. That's too
confusing.
much.
Yeah, in the photo there are three action figures on the table.
Yeah.
One is of Zealot and it is $5. One is of why am I forgetting her name? Voodoo. It says it
Yeah.
on the package.
There you
Stuff.
go.
That one
Yeah.
actually looks like, based on what I can see on the photo, it says $10 on it.
Okay.
And there's also a Dragonheart figure, as in the 1996 movie where Sean Connery played a dragon.
Oh my
The
God.
dollar sign in there, there's a sign that says $1. That's actually for the comics on the other side.
That is very confusing and should be not be.
Yeah.
Basically, they should have done a better job with that signage.
Yeah. So I went through the bins and I could hear Brent going, woohoo, if he's watching this video, because I found a copy of Azrael Ash,
Yeah.
which I think my brother owns a copy that I think there's a copy somewhere in my parents' house of this comic.
I'm also pretty sure that I bought a copy at the artist that the no longer existent Jim Hanley's for $1 at their free comic book day event years ago. So yeah, there's plenty of those where that came from.
Yeah, I can stop share for now, but
Yeah.
So yeah, they just have these two tables out and like they say for sale. And mind you, I've walked by them before and they've had tables out, but I've never actually taken the time to look at the tables. Because one thing about Free Comic Book Day to me is when you go to the store, we go to like Jim Hanley's and they usually have like 30% off,
Hmm.
or places might do buy two, get a third one free,
Yeah.
you know, or something like that, right? And I see these tables and I'm like, oh, I guess he's trying to move some merch. Obviously, he's trying to move merch that's been sitting in a warehouse since 1997.
Hmm.
Uh, you
Starting
know,
lineup, by the way, ceased production in 2001.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he overinvested in those back in the 90s.
Uh-huh.
I walk into the store, it's St. Mark's. Like it's a perfectly normal comic shop. It's not
Hmm.
a dark, disgusting den, but neither it
Yeah.
is like the beautiful, like beautifully laid out, like clean layouts that we kind to expect of like a modern comic shop.
Right.
I walk around it. There's just tons of shelves of books. It's actually visually very kind of confusing. I do spot like at least they have sections for things like, oh, I saw it on one shelf. I was like, oh, cool. They still have a Neil Gaiman section. Great.
Oh boy.
But I do a loop around the store. I'm like dodging around people. There's a lot of like aisles are kind of blocked. So like I think they were doing okay business today. I do my full loop. I have no idea where the free comics are.
Uh-oh.
I had already checked this website and it listed St. Mark's. So
Hmm.
I end up coming back around to the front and there's a girl in the front. I said, "Are you guys doing free comic book day?" And she's like, "Oh, you get it from my boss in the back." Which I think it was Mitch. I don't even remember what he looks like half the time, I'll be honest. I do the circle. I still don't see anything because I'm used to like a table
Yeah,
with
of
like
course.
bags. But eventually, yeah, I find, the guy and I said, "Oh, yeah, free comic book day?" He's like, "Yeah, what do you want? All ages or action adventure?" And I'm just like, give me a kid's comic. Give me kids' comics.
Uh-huh.
And he just hands me a comic. And I said, "That's it?" He goes, "Well, that was the top of the stack."
Oh my God.
I got one comic,
What the hell?
whatever it was that was on the top of the stack. Luckily, it was the Supergirl's Super Zeros comic, which is
Oh,
exactly
okay.
probably the one I would have picked if I had a choice.
Sure. Yeah.
But that was it. It was literally just like he just hands it to me, and I'm just like, okay,
I
yeah,
want to
well,
show
this is
you.
perfect.
I want to show you their Instagram post real quick, just for comparison's sake. Nowhere on the Instagram post does it say anything about not being able to choose. It just says while supplies last. It doesn't even say how many you'll get. It just says that it's free comic book day. Um, that is this close to false advertising.
I mean, I don't think I expected any more out of this store,
No, I know.
but it
Yeah.
was still very shocked. I was like, wow, this is, I mean, I didn't say to him. I just said, oh, good, this is perfect for a 5-year-old. That's
Right.
all I said.
Hmm.
Again, it is the comic I would have picked for my niece
Right.
if you only gave me one. One, I'm not used to only getting one comic. That is insane to
No, I
me.
know. Yeah. Yeah.
I put it in my bag. I walked out. I went to the bus stop, and then I complained to immediately was on Facebook Messenger complaining to Ian like, what is even going on? This
Which
is
is why we're talking right now.
yeah. So I feel like I do want to get into like bigger free comic book day, comics giveaway day philosophy with this.
Hmm.
One, yeah, the fact that St. Mark's not only is like only giving you one book, not
Yeah.
letting you pick beyond the whole kid comic versus action adventure, which means
Hmm.
he's not even purchasing and giving away like some of the other stuff that they might have.
Yeah.
Because I know I've gotten free comic book stuff that's like out of that range. I remember they had the Scott Pilgrim comic years
Hmm.
ago.
Yeah.
I think I have mouse guard stuff,
Yeah.
and labyrinth, like all sorts of
Hmm.
genres. So the fact that these were the only two choices, it was very much like these are the two genders.
So here's my theory is as such. One, they didn't want to pay because, as we all know, it's free comic book day for us, not for the stores. Free comic book day still books still have to be purchased by the store. It's significantly discounted. It's not the price that they would pay for their regular comics distribution, but it's still a certain amount of money that they
Yeah.
have to put down.
So, I did bring this up on Blue Sky. If you're on Blue Sky,
Hmm.
you may or may not have seen my post about this. is that because, so like I said, I want to talk about the philosophy of this thing.
Yeah.
So yes, they do not, the comic shops have to pay for these issues. They are not paying the dollar, the $2, whatever the wholesale price of the comic of a normal comic would be.
Hmm.
I Googled it before I skeeted because I didn't want to be one of those a-holes who just spouts off with, who seems to know shit about shit. And the amount that a free comic book day comic costs a store can vary, but it can be as low as 10 cents. The high that I've seen quoted is 60 cents.
Hmm.
I think the important part here, like I understand, like, yes, it costs them money, and everything, but the important part to stress here is this is not mandatory.
No, of course not.
A store has to make a choice to participate in this event. There is a
Hmm.
minimum buy that you have to make in order to be listed on the Free Comic Book Day website.
Right.
And presumably comics giveaway day and all that other stuff.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So like there's a minimum, but you could choose to just not do it.
Absolutely.
If you do not like Free Comic Book Day, if you think it just has people coming into your store, be like, gimme, 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 and they're rude to your staff and
Right.
whatever, you could just not do it at all. The fact is but the thing is, St. Mark's and other stores, I'm sure there are other stores who also do this, like,
Hmm.
still, they want to be listed on the website because they want the foot traffic, but they don't want to put in the work that goes in with the original intent of the event. Because the point of Free Comic Book Day is to kind of raise the profile of comic shops, to remind people they exist, remind people comic books exist,
Yeah.
get people to go into those comic shops
Right.
where they may or may not spend money.
Hmm.
And my general philosophy is because what I've been seeing is people pointing out, well, those cost them money, so you should buy something while you're there. And I fully reject the idea that just because I went in and I grabbed two comics, which cost the store probably less than $1 total. Again, it varies by issue.
Hmm.
That I am somehow obligated to now spend $40 or $60 on trade paperbacks.
I agree. Yeah.
It makes me not want to do it at all. If I'm going to be guilted into having to spend my money, I might as well just skip the comic shop and go to like the library instead.
Right.
Like, I think the good comic shops understand, like, again, this is about reminding people you exist and also just about celebrating it. Like, one of my more positive, I don't want to say it was my best free comic book day, but one of my like more positive opinions, outlooks was going to Anyone Comics.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone Comics basically set up like a mini artist alley.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
Like you walk in, it was just the store was laid out, but then you went to the back and there were a few tables, and then there was a sign that was like more artists downstairs. And you go downstairs and there was a bunch of tables with artists selling their stuff.
Hmm.
I know other stores will get writers and artists to come in and sign autographs.
I know. JHU Comics in Staten Island had Evan Dorkin today. They had him, signing his new book, his new collection of his comics, and he was there pretty much the entire day. Plus, they had free comics, and they had a sale because that's the way you do it. Even going back to Midtown Comics, for example, there have been years where Midtown Comics have had people signing. It's usually the Grand Central location rather than the actual Midtown location, just because there's more space there. But even thinking about that and bringing it back to what you're talking about with the one comic and two genres, Midtown Comics give you a blind bag, but they give you a blind bag of like 5 comics. Because
they pretty much give you whatever they ordered.
Exactly. Yeah.
Everybody has a different way of doing it. Midtown, and the thing is, it makes sense for Midtown because they do not, especially the Midtown location.
Yeah.
There's also Midtown Downtown and Midtown Grand Central.
Yeah.
But Midtown does not have a lot of space, so it is easier for them to. They would usually, because I went there last year, and they do have the whole. Well, if you actually want to go in the shop. Here's the line for that. There's really no line. Just walk in. If you actually want the free comics, you're going to have to wait on this line, and then you can go into the shop afterwards if you want. If you decide to just go on the normal people line and then try to grab the free comics, they will shut you down and tell you to go back outside. So
Absolutely.
I was like, thank you for enforcing your own rules there. But you wait on the line, you go, and then you go upstairs, you go to the counter, and they give you a brown paper bag that has all the comics in it. And I think. if I recall correctly, they also let you choose, like, do you want like more adult oriented stuff or do you want kids
I
comics? And I
believe
think
I
this is
believe that
very
is the
smart.
case. Yeah.
Yeah. So I did get the pack of the kids comics, which is what I gave to my niece
Hmm.
last year, and I will give her this Supergirl comic. I think that makes perfect sense because they're
Yeah.
getting so many people, they can't have them standing over a counter looking at comics
No.
on a rack. Like Jim Hanley's had the space to lay out a table, like they would put it in the back, and
Hmm.
and they would tell you, okay, you can have this many comics.
Yeah.
And mind you, like that number changed by the year because
Oh,
sometimes it would be
absolutely.
very low, but it's gone as high as 7 comics, if I recall correctly.
I remember Montesi as another example. Montesi Comics, which still exists. There's no longer they're no longer called Montesi Second because the Queens location doesn't exist. They're just
Yeah,
Montesi
no,
now.
Modesty is on the Free Comic Book website, and I probably would
Hmm.
have gone there if I were in the city. And
Yeah.
they basically just put everything on a wall, and you were
Mhm.
allowed to choose like 3 of them.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's again, every store can handle it differently. You pick the method that works best for your store,
Hmm.
and I don't have a problem with not having a choice if you are giving me multiple issues.
Yes.
And the thing is, like, I actually think it's kind of cool to give people basically what is like a starter pack of comics.
Oh
So
yeah.
like maybe
Yeah.
you won't like everything in the bag, but you might be willing to give it a try.
Yeah.
It's like a little sampler size.
Hmm.
I mean, again, there's also the advantage of like if you do let people pick, for one, you can figure out what people actually want and adjust like things like future purchasing decisions on that.
But
You know,
the one comic option at St. Mark's boils down to how we've always kind of said this. And again, you can listen to our full episode ranting about St. Mark's Comics to get further into it. But I've always kind of felt like St. Mark's misses the point of a comic shop in certain aspects. One thing would be the community, because our favorite comic shops are the ones where you feel like you can go in there, you can, before you know it, have a rambling conversation with somebody who might just be randomly talking about something that you may be interested in. You go up, and before you know it, 30 minutes have passed, and you feel like you've had an experience. St. Mark's Comics to me is not an experience. St. Mark's Comics to me is an experience you want to get out of.
yeah. So I have two things. That one, I just want to say when you talk about the conversations you overhear,
Mhm.
my favorite continues to be in Jim Hanley's. I believe it might have been Larry and Ken were arguing with each
Yeah.
other about who would win in a fight, Human Torch versus Fire Lord.
Oh yes,
And
yes,
I
yes.
believe it was Larry who just kept going, Human Torch versus Fire
Fire Lord.
Lord. He's the
Yes.
literal Lord of
Uh,
Fire.
Larry, God bless him. We ran into him at Javits working security not too long ago. So I'm happy to see he's still out there in one form or another. He was one of my favorite comic shop behind the counter people in my life. Basically,
Yeah, I feel
him
like
and Hank.
Yeah, see, I think that's the interesting thing is that the other comic shops in New York, I
Yeah.
know the names of the people who work there. Not just Raph,
Hmm.
but it was nice to go into Midtown and be like, it's my friend Raph. But
Right.
also people like Hal,
Oh sure. Yeah.
who I'm still friends with on Facebook.
Hmm.
Also like the guys at Jim Hanley's, we know, most of them,
Yeah.
like even the ones who went professional, like Vito DeSante,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
But like like yeah, Hank, Hank from Bulletproof or whatever. So
Absolutely.
like I
Yeah.
know the comic guys at other shops.
Yeah.
But at St. Mark's, like I said, I was like, was that Mitch? I don't even remember Mitch's face. And I've had altercations with him. I'm pretty sure
Yeah.
that was Mitch, but again, I wasn't my brain wasn't trying to do a pattern recognition thing at that time.
Right.
But they said my boss, so I'm assuming it was Mitch. Also, he's gone bald.
Yes.
You know, uh
Looking at it now, yes, he has gone bald. So
yeah,
yes.
so it was Mitch. The thing is, so one of the reasons I get really, really pissy about, like, I don't have to get pissy about this particular shop. And again, I
Mhm.
apologize to people who are not from New York. I remember Brent was mad at us for talking about a shop he will never visit.
Yeah.
Uh, you know, it's so the reason I have such a bug up my ass about St. Mark's in particular is I think it stems from I think opening up like the Village Voice, the
Hmm.
famous free newspaper that ran for decades.
Yep.
The center of, the hub and the reporter of counterculture in the city, and just famous nationwide,
Yeah.
honestly. And when they did their Best of New York issue, and more than 1 year in a row, they picked St. Mark's, which always told me one that they know what do you, just because you're called the Village Voice doesn't mean you can't leave the village.
I know. Yeah. Yeah.
But the fact is, I would read the blurbs, and the blurbs would say things like, "Oh yeah, they have surly goth girls ringing you up. That's so authentic." It sounded,
Yeah.
it's what we would call transplant talk now.
Yeah, I know.
People
Yeah.
talk about real New York, and I'm just like, I don't want a rude comic shop employee.
Forbidden Planet is right there, okay? Village Voice, like, Forbidden Planet is technically outside of the village, but it's literally right there. And in every single way, yes, it's part of the Forbidden Planet chain, which exists mainly in the UK, but it is a better shop and always has been than St. Mark's. I have had better experiences there in every single way than I have at St. Mark's.
Forbidden Planet's a nice shop.
It
I
is,
used to
yeah.
shop there when I was still working at Engadget because I would have to pass it on the way to Union Square, so I would
Yeah.
pop in there and buy like things once in a while.
Hmm.
But yeah, again, this is why I get a bug up my ass about it
Yeah.
is the fact that the things that we would normally associate with being like bad things about comic shops
Hmm.
are like celebrated there.
Well, see,
Uh,
and I'm no, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah,
Continue.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's okay. It's just I think it's just like the things that people they still celebrate rudeness. I think the location definitely played into it. Again, this is
Hmm.
something we did talk about in our episode about it.
Yeah.
Also, the fact that it was open till 1 in the morning.
Yeah, I know.
I can't really argue with that, though. I will point out that Jim Hanley's used to close at 11 p.m.
Midtown Comics used to close at midnight.
Yeah,
I
so
think they're up until 10 now or something like that, which is still not
yeah,
that bad.
everything closes earlier now that COVID and all
Yeah.
that stuff. So what were you gonna say?
What I was going to say is in comparison. So after you had your experience and you reminded me that it was May 2nd because I'd kind of like completely forgotten in my head, I happened to be on my own today. Martha's in the city. So I was like, all right, let me go down the block. I've talked about Collector Cave a couple times on the show before. That is my local comic shop. It's on Middletown Road in the Bronx. It's legitimately walking distance. I'd say maybe it's like a 7-minute walk for me to get there. And I've had so experiences there. It's not a very big place. It used to be directly next door. You'll see in the share that I have here where it says 3025. It used to be that location. It was even smaller. And then they moved next door when another place went out and they moved into a bigger space. And I've been there for Free Comic Book Day before, and they didn't really have any signage for it, so I didn't know how many to take, and then I think I was able to take 3, and that was fine. This time around, they had signage, and it told you exactly how many that you were supposed to take, which is 3, and that's awesome. 3 is just about the right amount because you could go in there and see what selection they have and decide for yourself, what genres I want, and you have it there. And they had them all laid out on a specific, shelf of their available comics for you to choose from. So when I went in there, I got myself the Power Rangers issue 0, which Marguerite Bennett is writing. It's basically a relaunch of Power Rangers that's starting up soon. I got the DC Next Level, because that has a whole bunch of the new DC books, Batwoman, Lobo, and whatnot. It's being fuzzy because of the portrait lighting. By the way,
I was trying to figure out if it was fuzzy or shiny.
no, it's fuzzy.
Okay.
It's showing up as out of focus. But yeah, basically,
Because
this
honestly, it's pure 90s.
I know,
If it was a
right?
shiny, like a slightly shiny cover.
I agree entirely. This just has previews for 3 of the Next Level books. It has Batwoman by Greg Rucka, Deathstroke by Tony Fleeks, Lobo, and a couple of other books. And you get, samplers of it, which is exactly what a Free Comic Book Day book should be. And I picked up the Amazing Spider-Man comics giveaway, because that's not under the Free Comic Book Day banner anymore. Joe Kelly leading up to issue 1000 of Amazing Spider-Man Queen in Black.
Yeah, I'll
And
probably just catch that one on Marvel Unlimited.
yeah, that's fine. Well, all this stuff is going to wind up digital at one point or another, but they had other options. If I wanted to get any other variety of books, if I wanted to not get DC or Marvel, I could have, but I went for that because I'm a sucker that way. But they had dollar bins set up, which was nice and everything and all that. They didn't have any discounts on new comics. Some places also discount their new comics on Free Comic Book Day. They didn't decide to. I went ahead for the sake of the podcast and picked up my one non-Free Comic Book Day physical copy of something that I'm going to own this year, which is Marvel's Spider-Man Superman #1. This comic book is $8. I want to point out this floppy comic book is $8. So 3 free comics and an $8 book. It's the only way I would have bought it, quite frankly, because I'm not spending $8 on something and only getting one comic. I basically got 4 comics for the price of $8. That's the way I can justify it in my head and go with that. $8 for a single. Yeah, that's bad.
I mean, I will point out that we both kind of came up in the 90s when there would be comics that were like $5 with inflation that would be equivalent to the $8 these days,
Right.
and it's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, mind you, this isn't just comics with the inflation and everything. I do feel like companies are just like jacking up prices to see on how far it goes before people stop buying stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not smart enough to have anything of like a really good considered opinion on this. It is a
No.
little crazy. Like, because the thing is, we keep talking about, and again, when we talked about this on the episode of Dono's podcast, questions we don't have answers, about like getting kids in the comics. And of course, price point is always going to matter with that.
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, that was, again, kind of the point of Free Comic Book Day. Like, you're a kid, you got like $10, you're 10 years old and maybe you only have $10,
Yeah.
like whatever. And, you go into the comic shop on a Saturday and it's like, oh no, not only is this stuff cheap, it's like super free. It's
Yeah.
like, take it. Like it's supposed to just kind of put you in a good mood.
Yeah.
Like,
And going there put me in a good mood. It legitimately did.
That's what it is. That's what the day is about. It's about greasing the wheels.
Yes. I sat there. I mean, I stood there having a conversation after I'd already picked out my comics on, I'd mentioned to you, like, on the day that we're recording this, it was announced that, prolific YouTuber / wrestler Xavier Woods / Austin Creed was let go of WWE, and I wound up having an entire conversation with this guy that was talking about it at the time for at least 10 minutes. We're just bullshitting about wrestling because we could, and it felt like this was more of a community experience than I've had at Collector Cave in a while, which, by the way, they also have trades on the shelves now way more than they did when I was there. Mind you, it's still only like 7 or 8, but it's better than the 0 that used to be there when I was there a couple of years ago.
Oh, that's interesting. I do feel like some stores were really slow to pick up on trades at first.
This is one of them. Yeah.
Yeah. Looking at St. Mark's, I think they have one wall that's still single issues in those stupid little white wooden bins, the ones that I hate so much. Because the problem I have with these is they're basically like little niches in the wall, and they put like a wooden bar across the middle so the comics don't fall out.
Yeah.
But if you are the kind of nerd that wants your comics to be in pristine condition,
oh yeah,
this will bend them. This will give them creases in the middle.
Oh yeah.
And like when I still cared about that stuff, that used to piss me off so much.
I also miss when bags and boards were free, because I paid 50 cents for a bag and board at Collector Cave. But again,
depends on the store. Depends on the store, because like Jim Hanley's doesn't do it, but Forbidden Planet very much does.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I don't care, because I just buy them in the bulk anyway.
And if you're going through the dollar bin, all those dollar bin comics are tend to typically have bags of boards with them, so you can consider that whatever the price of the comic that you're getting the bag and board for free.
You could just cannibalize also if you want. I've done that too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Now I'm just thinking back to those dollar bins at St. Mark's where I'm looking at, I see Azrael Ash. I saw there was a girl next to me. She pulled out a Green Arrow, a Connor Hawk Green Arrow that I said, she actually grabbed it. And I said, that's a good choice. Connor Hawk is sexy.
Damn right. Damn right.
It's just, I was like, my God, all of the, I didn't flip through them totally, but what I saw is a bunch of little poly bags that said, I'm trying to remember. It was Executioner's song.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, I saw that in your image that there were Executioner song polybags behind that, and I'm like, you have had these since they came out, and you have these every single New York Comic Con that you exhibit at. Because I've seen the small shop, even when there was the short time that St. Mark's had closed and they hadn't opened up their Industry City location, there were multiple New York Comic Cons where he still, was on the floor. And I guarantee you, those Executioner Song comics were there, and I guarantee you, they went back home with them because nobody's
Yeah,
buying those.
nobody's buying them, and it's reaching the point where they probably cost him more money
Oh yeah,
to have to store them, to have employees trucking them in and out than they
Mhm.
would just I mean, I honestly just give those away at this
Yeah.
point.
But
But some
no, go ahead.
I was going to say some store owners will never do that.
I agree.
They refuse to ever write off like an item as like a loss, as money spent as a lost cause. I had that
No,
issue
they don't.
when used to work in the science fiction bookstore, and the owner was the same way. I think with the comics too, because I was like, this should really be marked down to $1. He's like, no, never below cover price. And I'm like, nobody's gonna buy this, dude. You just need to get it out of the store.
Yeah, that's the whole point of, and a lot of stores have switched to the back issue model, which is they no longer get into comics. They will have, for the most part, gaming and toys, and they'll have their dollar bins with their old comics, and they will no longer have even a subscription model for you to pick up your stuff. Some people still do the subscription model, but they don't have stuff on their shelves on anymore. That's new because the new comics just sit there and they take up space, and then nobody buys them. Or you have your pull list full of people that don't actually go and get their pull list, which means you're spending money on comics that you're not actually selling, and that becomes why these comic shops go out of business in the end. It's a really stupid business when you
Yeah,
think.
well, we did discuss in the last episode, which you should listen to if you haven't already, about how beholden the whole industry still is to the comic shop model. And the comic shop model has not evolved.
Yeah,
Because again, I like single issues, but I really now, like as I get older, and especially when I have to move house, I prefer having trade paperbacks.
I agree. Yeah.
I also think that limited series are stupid.
Yes.
Like I would rather just buy the trade paperback.
Hmm.
I famously got into an argument with Mark Wade over this out of all people
Yes,
on
I know.
Facebook. And
Yep.
he was trying to say, well, you need to have the single issues because you don't know how much to order. And I'm like, that is literally not a problem for bookstores.
Yep.
Like, why is a comic shop different than a book? A comic shop is a bookstore.
I know. Yeah. Yeah.
Like bookstores have to take chances on new properties all the time. They're not selling single little issues. They may sell magazines, but their main stock and trade is like 200 and 300 page books.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like it's just insane that we are still following these very old-fashioned models. Like I don't even know what we're talking about anymore, Ian, I'll be honest.
Well, really, really, what it comes down to is free comic book day should be for the people. Free. That's really what it is.
I just imagine you with you need a little beret on Ian right now. And
I know,
I
right?
know that Che Guevara is a piece of shit, but right now I'm imagining Ian with the beret on his head with the communist,
But really, like, give people a reason to go into your store. One random comic with two genres that you have to blindly pick from is not a reason to.
They're not
attend
even
your shop.
genres, they're just ages.
Yeah, exactly.
It's such a weird, like I said, it's the same joke that the internet likes to make about, again, the two genders.
Yeah.
In this case, the two genders were all ages and action adventure.
Basically, yeah.
I was like, that's so weird.
It's just such a. It boils down to that type of comic shop that is the stereotype of the comic book guy from The Simpsons versus the type of shop that you actually want to hang out in and participate in.
Yeah, let me just, not about Free Comic Book Day, but like, I guess I am talking about St. Mark's again here. But
Yeah.
what puzzles me about this is that one, I do wonder, I don't need to know his actual finances, but I am wondering how the money is working because St. Mark's in the heart of the East Village,
Hmm.
in this very busy area, people are walking by, they go in, and thinking the heyday, we're talking like the 90s. They go in, they buy their Johnny the Homicidal Maniac,
Hmm.
they might buy some little zine or whatever. I'm trying to remember what else was there in the 90s that like a god, well, buy Sandman,
Oh yeah,
obviously.
yeah.
But, they go in and they buy it at 12:30 in the morning.
Uh-huh.
But now he's in this, like I said, it's basically like a mall. I can't even call it a hipster mall. It's just a very weird location. It's not near the subway.
Hmm.
It is, you have to still walk an avenue over to get there. That's about 2 blocks. It's not going to say it's the worst walk in the world. It's not very welcoming though. You get off the train, you walk a block, and then there's frickin' the highways right over your head.
Yeah.
Right? It's deeply unpleasant, honestly. And mind you, that whole thing shuts down. Like there's no foot traffic after a certain point because the main customer base for a lot of those stores on the weekdays is just the other people who work in Industry City.
Yeah.
Some of whom they work in the offices and the warehouses, they work in the artist studios. There's artist studios down there. So I noticed that I think when I went with Ian and our friend David went to Gun Hill Brewing when it first opened, and we
Hmm.
couldn't find a place to eat because half the places had closed for the evening, and it was
Yeah.
only like 6 o'clock.
Yep. Yep.
So I am wondering, like, on the weekends it fills up a bit more, and I'm like, is this St. Mark's iteration making most of its money on the weekends? Are they making enough to cover their overhead? Are they being offered that slot super cheap? That's a possibility because if he's able to make a deal to start Brooklyn Independent Comics Showcase,
Hmm.
maybe they're friends. I don't know. And again, going back to Bix, I think is a wonderful show. I'm glad he
Yeah.
started it. Honestly, I'd be perfectly happy if that was the thing instead of the store.
Which it very well may become at some point. Tons of stores have closed over the years because it just was not a model that made sense anymore. I mean, one of Gold Team. Chris Eberly used to own Wild Pick Comics in Kenilworth, New Jersey, and it was no longer a viable option for him to remain open because not enough people were buying comics, plain and simple. By the time that shop closed, they had become almost entirely a gaming store, which was not what he got into business for. So that's why he decided to close it up. And that's the case with a lot of shops now. Like you have to be a multifaceted shop to remain open. We've said that over and over again on the show. Like if you don't have like the magic business or the Pokemon card business or the toy business, or you actually have a consistent amount of people coming in to buy your back issues, which you're undercharging for. Again, what you said, yes, you have to pay less for some comics unless it's a key issue. It's gonna happen. Then that's how you make your money back, and that's how you stay open. That's how you stay afloat. But otherwise, it's not a model that's consistent with with today's world in a lot of ways.
Yeah, now I feel like it's a bigger discussion here because
Hmm.
what you're describing in terms of how comic shops need to diversify now, right,
Yeah,
is also what happened to comic conventions.
absolutely.
The fact that like San Diego and New York, C2E2, MegaCon, they're not really exclusively or sometimes barely comic conventions anymore.
Hmm. Yep.
They're sci-fi conventions, they're TV and movie conventions, animation conventions. And I don't want to sound like old person. It's like back in my day, because I'm also fully aware that I believe it was San Diego Comic-Con that Star Wars screened at
Yes.
SDCC back in this, like before I think it came out.
Hmm.
So that cross media experience was baked into the experience almost from the beginning. It baked into the convention almost from the beginning. So yeah, like the show, I mean, honestly, it's what makes Bix kind of unusual to me is the fact that it is just comics.
Hmm.
But I think it's also helped by the fact that again, they're not trying, I think, even though they advertise and all that stuff, I think they're relying on just foot traffic.
Yeah.
As I said, people do pass through Industry City on the weekends. Like you go there, you go to like Japan Village and it might be packed.
Hmm.
So they are, it's like a destination, and they're just hoping, well, somebody's walking by, they'll come into the show, and if it's free, they'll walk in, and everything like that. I don't know if that's sustainable,
Yeah.
but yeah, but I think for other comic conventions that want to be a destination, they
Hmm.
want to actually charge tickets, they do have to diversify.
Yeah. And guess what? You want your comic shop to be a destination, participate in Free Comic Book Day, and have a good sale, and you will get the foot traffic that you want for that particular day. Like that's it. Like there are shops that made their bank for a decent amount of their year off of Free Comic Book Day and the Halloween version of it. Multiple times. So that's just the way it goes sometimes. And plain and simple, like that's what we were looking for with this Free Comic Book Day. I'm glad I kind of got that with Collector Cave, even though I still think that it has room to improve. But I'm glad that my experience was good, and I'm sad that yours wasn't. But next year,
I
hopefully,
I
you'll be at a
wasn't
shop that's better.
I wasn't really expecting much. I was
Yeah.
thinking of just skipping it entirely,
Yeah.
because when I saw that my only option, unless I wanted to get on a train and go into the city, even though I
Hmm.
was I was already feeling kind of tired.
Yeah.
I mean, like when I saw that was my only option, I was thinking of skipping it. And then I was like, again, it can't hurt to just walk around, just pop in and pop out. It's like it's not like I am personally hurt by this. It was just very shocking to me. I was like, wow, that was exactly what I expected,
Yeah.
you know. Especially when I went, that's it. And he's like, oh, well, I was at the top of the pile. And I'm just like, damn, because I've been in other shops. Sometimes they limit you. They'll be like, oh, you can only take one. And I'm like, oh, I can't decide. And they're like, oh, yeah, you can take both. I don't really care. Like I've had, yeah, I've had more positive experiences at like even smaller shops. Like I think it doesn't exist anymore, but Hey Kids Comics, that was one of the shops where I was like, I can't decide. And the guy's like, just take whatever. I don't care.
Yeah.
You know? So
Yeah.
I grabbed a bunch of stuff, for I think was Emma alive at this point? I think she was. You know. I think about, we used to make a thing out of Free Comic Book Day, and I kind of miss that. Like I
Yes.
used to meet with you and Raph, maybe David, our friend Andrew, maybe Ed, we even if we didn't meet up with them, we usually run into the same people at the shops, and we would go to like every shop that we could reach in Manhattan. Like because a lot of them were in Midtown anyway, so we'd go to Midtown Comics, we'd go to Jim Hanley's, Monacy, Cosmic Comics, if you remember
Hmm.
that place.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. No,
Yeah, we'd
absolutely.
go around and we'd get the free comics, and then we'd probably get something to eat,
Yeah.
and then we would go see a Marvel movie.
Yeah, which this year, just to wrap up the talk on Free Comic Book Day and wrap up the episode, there was not a movie to see this year that was comic book themed, because this was going to be the original weekend that Doomsday was supposed to come out, and that it got delayed until the winter. So it is there was nothing on the slate to be released this weekend. It's only happened like maybe 4 other times in the history of Free Comic Book Day, but basically only since COVID times, essentially,
Yeah,
has there
but
really not been something in this slot.
that's a bigger issue with the movie industry is the fact that they have to lock in release days years in advance, which
Yeah.
means that if something gets moved, nobody has the flexibility to reschedule to take advantage of that gap.
Hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, absolutely. All right, let's go ahead and wrap this thing up. I think we definitely got our point across with this one, and always good talking comics with you in one way or another, Kris. Remind folks, everybody, where they can find you.
Oh yeah, I'm lampbane.bsky.social, which I kind of forgot during our last recording. I was like, bsky dot something, I don't
Yeah.
know. Uh and again, you can just Google me. I'm like omnipresent. I'm also in, I do read the post in the Comic Timing Fans Facebook group.
Hmm.
And maybe we'll put some photos or something up on the Patreon as well.
Yep.
We'll see. We'll see how we're doing, and we'll try to do some anniversary stuff for you guys.
Absolutely. Yep. And those of you who are patrons, I hope you enjoyed getting this a couple of days early from the main release. And I'll also be linking to the video version, which I'll make one of those links that only you folks can see up until the point that I'll make it public. So that's the way that's going to roll. So with that, let's head to credits and go ahead and wrap this sucker up. Email address for Comic Timing is comictiming@gmail.com. Facebook.com/Comic Timing is where you can find the Facebook community, and the Comic Timing fan group is linked there as well. Please join us there and join in on the conversation. YouTube.com/@Comic Timing Podcast is where you can find the Comic Timing Podcast. So do go ahead and check us out on there. We are Comic Timing on Bluesky. We are also on Instagram as Comic Timing Podcast, and we are on Threads as well as Comic Timing Podcast. For Kris, for me, and for Free Comic Book Day, and that other thing that that's called. I mean, let us be reminding out there that there's always time for comics. I was hoping to accidentally get something witty to say at the end, and I couldn't think of anything.